Hey guys, I know you guys are really anxious to actually start writing your research paper, but there's one little last stop we have to make on our quest before we actually sit down to write our research paper, and that is called citing your sources. So there's two different ways to cite sources, one of which is pretty easy, and that's citing them in your bibliography or reference page or works cited page or whatever it is that you're going to call it. And then there's another one called in-text citation that we're going to kind of look at today as we go through the actual task here. So you'll see that I kind of gave you some examples here on what a citation would look like in your bibliography. And you can kind of see for a web page, when you are citing a source in your bibliography, things have to follow a certain order. So you'll always notice in APA style that we have the author's name first. We don't have an author here, so it's the owl at Purdue, which is probably kind of like a blog site maybe, or maybe a campus newsletter or something like that. It looks like an electronic newsletter, because here's the actual URL. And then we have the publication year, and then we have the title. So you'll always notice in APA style that the author's name and the year go together side by side, and then the title and then the URL. So because most of us are using electronic sources, that's kind of what you guys will have as well. And if you scroll down here, you're going to see that I also gave you an example on how it would look as an actual book. All right, so instead of the URL here, we still have the author, we still have the date, that's APA. The author and the date always go together in APA citation style. Then we have the title, and now instead of a URL, we have the city of publication and the actual publisher. All right, so let's click on the task tab here, because we're going to kind of practice a little bit here as we go through this assignment. You're going to see here that although that is talking, the story tab is talking about citations in a bibliography, you also have to worry about citations in text as you're writing your paper, keeping track of your citations. So here's how this is going to go. It says not only do you need to worry about keeping track of your sources in your bibliography, but when you use one of those sources in your paper, you also need to make sure that you make an in-text citation. And I gave you guys 4 examples below. So the first one actually has the author's name in the sentence of the paper. So it says Pollen, parentheses 2001, explains that, quote, the apple, like the settlers themselves, had to forsake its former domestic life, blah, 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 blah. And because it's a quote, you're going to notice at the end of that quote, I have the page number. All right. If it's not a direct quote and you are paraphrasing, there's no page number at the end. And because I named the author in the actual sentence, notice how I don't have the author's name here at the very, very end. Example number 2 is exactly opposite of that. It's a direct quote. I do not have the author's name anywhere in the sentence, so that means that I do have to list it right here with the year and with the page number. All right. When we're paraphrasing, things are a little different because it's not a direct quote and we are paraphrasing the literature. We do not have to include a page number, but we still need the author's name and then the year. So in this one, I'm actually putting the author's name in the sentence. So notice at the end of the sentence, I don't have any parentheses with the author's name. And I just put the year right after the author's name. Michael Pollan in 2001 compares the apple to the settler, blah, 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 blah. And then number 4, I'm paraphrasing without the author's name. So I include the author's name and the date at the very end to let the reader know exactly where this information came from. All right, now scroll down here and you guys have 2 activities here, and we're going to kind of work through a couple of these together. First, let's look at the reference list activity. So go ahead and click on reference list if you haven't already. This is what the reference list activity kind of looks like. It says, write a reference list using APA style for the following sources. So this is going to be pretty easy because in Microsoft Word, under the Reference tab, you're going to notice that we can actually insert citations here. So when we first do this, it's going to insert a citation, and it's going to look like it's an in-text citation, and that's fine. After we're done with all of the examples at the very bottom, we're going to insert our bibliography. All right, so for here, a book published in 1991 in Oxford, written by Professor John Sinclair. So I'm going to say insert citation, add new source. All right, and I'm going to say book. It's not a section of a book, it's a book. And I'm going to say author, John Sinclair. Okay, I think I spelled it right. Title is Corpus concordance, and collocation. Somebody needs to Google that and tell me what that means. Now I want to know. The year it says is 1991. City is Oxford. Publisher, Oxford University Press. Okay. I have all that stuff. Everything's good. I plugged in everything I could find about my source. I'm going to press OK. It's going to give me, oh, look, I capitalized the I in Sinclair. Let me go ahead and edit my source here, manage sources. Where did I put that? John Sinclair. I need to edit it. Right here. Boom. Okay. If you ever make a mistake on your source, you can go to edit source and fix it. All right. So now Sinclair 1991. That's what it would look like if I were to make an in-text citation, like after my sentence, this is what it would look like. All right. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to do the same thing for the third one. I'm going to do the same thing for the fourth one and the fifth one. All right. Go ahead and do that. I just want to chime in here real quick because as I'm making my citations here on the sheet, I just want to make sure everybody's doing things correctly. So make sure up here for this one, for the second bullet in, that you're actually citing a newspaper article. Under citations, it's actually going to say periodical. So when you say insert citation, you're going to say article and periodical. All right, that's your newspaper article. Down here, notice how I actually have two authors for this particular entry. So when you go into insert citation and you add new source, make sure that you go into edit beside the author here so you can add two different authors. Every time you add a first and last name, you're going to hit add. And then when the citation is all said and done, it should actually kind of look something like this. All right, you should have both authors' names. And that's a little tricky. All right, I'm going to continue on here. And then I'm going to check in once we get to the end and we insert our bibliography. Okay, so you can see here that I have all of my citations. And some of these were a little tricky, but hopefully you got the same thing that I did here for your citations. I'm just going to press enter here before I do this because I'm about to insert a bibliography. So now that I've made my citations, under insert citation, I can kind of see all of my citations here. So I'm just going to say bibliography now. And you have a couple different types of ways that you can cite sources. Some of them call them a bibliography, some of them call them a reference page or a reference list, and some of them call them a works cited page. They're all about the same thing. So I'm just going to say bibliography, and now it has inserted a bibliography at the bottom of page 1, and it looks like it's continuing on to page 2, which is not ideal. I'm probably going to do a page break and send everything down, but for right now, I'm just going to kind of leave it like that. And you can kind of see here, no matter what the reference is, I actually have a citation both in text examples and my bibliography examples. All right, so let's look at writing a reference list. I'm going to go ahead and insert a page break to send all this stuff down. So it has its own page now. So writing a reference list, bring this back up a little. All right, it says there's at least one mistake in every entry. Correct them and check your answers. All right, so for the first one, I can kind of spot this pretty quickly. Right here, I need some parentheses around the date. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my parentheses around 1994. Boom. Done with that one. All right, Bridgman, B. Carlson, B. Survey of Academic Writings, written communication. It looks like this is a journal entry, so I've got to find my error in this one. Campbell, A.F., organize your English, London. That looks like a book, so I've got to find an error in this one, and it looks like it's a spelling error. I think that's what it is. Yeah, so for the first one, we got that one right. I just checked my answers. Yeah, we're missing a date here. For this one, we're actually missing a date here. We have SB, Survey of Academic Writing Skills, but we have no date after our author here, so I'm just going to put in parentheses and say I need a year. I need something right here. And remember, I'm going to try to turn my answers red so I can tell Mr. Turner exactly what I think of this document or where my answers are. So same thing for my little parentheses here. I'm going to turn that red and turn this one red too. All right, let's go into this. This one right here, we can clearly see organize is misspelled. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this one in red. That's what it is for this one. All right, for the fourth one down, Klein M 1983, that looks good. Culture and discourse structure in Smith, reading English as an international language, pages, and then London Prentice Hall. Okay, so this one took me a second, but I just spotted it. It's right here. In Smith, limited edition. Limited edition wouldn't have, this one's real tricky. Some of these are really tricky. I'm glad I'm going over this with you guys so you don't make yourselves crazy. Trying to accomplish this activity. There. Limited edition right there. LE, limited. Readings in the name. Okay, so we got that one done. And I'm going to go ahead and make that red because that's where I made the change here. All right. Let's see. Wildwood House. I don't have a location here, right? Is that where we're missing? We have, it's a book because this is writing English. We have a publisher, but we don't have a location. Where's the publisher at? So I'm just going to say, I need a location here. And turn that red. Technically, my location would come, I'm just going to select it and kind of move it. It would come before Wildwood House, like that. Okay. So it's location and then the publisher name. That's APA style citations right there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move through this document. And like I said, we got a couple more corrections here. Try to spot where the errors are in the following entries here and just do the best job you can, guys. I'm not, looking for you guys to master this, but I think before we move on to write our research paper, it's really important that we know exactly how to make citations. All right. And I know this one's pretty tricky, so just do the best job you can.